2023 wasn't a good year for the Carolina Panthers, but I'm trying to make 2024 a better one for myself. Get started on your resolutions with Factor so you're ready for the new year. Factor's ready-to-eat meal delivery takes the stress out of meal planning and sets you up for success in the new year. Skip the grocery stores, prep work, and cooking fatigue. Instead, get chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals delivered right to your door. With over 35 meals to choose from per week, including keto options, calorie smart, vegan plus veggie, and more, plus over 55 weekly add-ons, you'll have a ton of nutritious and flavorful options to kickstart your resolutions. Skip that overpriced takeout trap. Factor is cheaper and way more delicious than takeout. Get chef-crafted, restaurant-quality meals delivered right to your door, and they're ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes, which means more time for you. Head to factormeals.com/C350 and use the promo code C350 to get 50% off. That's code C350 at factormeals.com/C350 to get 50% off.
Looking for a fun way to win up to 25 times your money this basketball season? Test your skills on Prize Picks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projected stats, and place your entry. You could turn $10 into $250. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit up to $100. Just visit prizepicks.com/fan and use code FAN. That's code FAN at prizepicks.com/fan.
Must be present in certain states. Visit prizepicks.com for restrictions and details.
In a world where Carolina Panthers fans have an insatiable thirst for Panthers news and opinions, only one podcast roars ferociously. It's the C3 Panthers Podcast.
Yo, what's the deal, Panther fans? Tony Dunn here. C3 Panthers Podcast, living on Tuesday night, 9 p.m. We're not under the best of circumstances. Tonight I came in here ready to will Panther Nation into a second wind, and now there's just more things sucking the wind out of our sails, and it sucks as it cuts, as old Wayne said, with the sucking cut. All right, guys, you're listening to the C3 Panthers Podcast. I got my homeboys here tonight. Cody Lashney in the house. How you doing?
Tony Dunn. I wish I could say I was doing better concerning my Carolina Panthers. We're going to have some very real moments tonight, evaluate the future of this team, evaluate the future of Cam Newton, and a player that we all have a ton of respect for. The chat room is lit up with all the faithfuls: Underground West, Nova Black, Legacy Lynn, Richards Outdoor World. Ain't nothing to it but to do it, Tony Dunn. Let's roll.
Greg, how's it going, my man?
I'm doing all right, man, but I can't follow that.
I know. He came in firing studs.
Yeah. Take away last week in fantasy football, I'd probably be doing a whole lot better. But, yeah, man, I'm ready to talk some Panthers.
All right, where can they find you on Twitter?
You can find me at the BatDaddy52 on Twitter.
I'm at cat_chronicles, and Cody is Cody, CODLAC. Guys, tonight's show, you know what, is I did not tonight's show was originally called Panthers Hope to Kill State Bird. And the idea is we're going to Arizona. It's an opportunity against a team that has not been looked upon by the league as that good, has yet to find their first win, if I'm right. And, you know, new coach, new quarterback, an opportunity for the Panthers to bounce back, get out of Charlotte, get out of North Carolina, get the stank off of them, and get the smell of a W. But unfortunately, today's news dealing with Cam Newton and the cryptic, mysterious injury or cryptic, mysterious reasons that Cam is not going to be starting and sounds like potentially is on the not in the near future, possibly starting for the Carolina Panthers. It's a bizarre situation. So it's Cam Newton locked in, loaded from the beginning of the show, pretty much throughout. But we also had a great show lined up before all this happened. Tonight, we've got former NFL player and Major League Baseball player Ed Smith, former tight end for he was on the 98 Atlanta Falcons when they won the NFC Championship. And he's an Arizona media member, Arizona Cardinals member. He has the Bleav in Cardinals podcast. His name's Ed Smith. You can follow him at Ed Smith Speaks. He's going to be coming on at 9:30 to kind of give us some insight, into the birds, those Cardinals that we're trying to kill, Kyler Murray, Cliff Kingsbury, what the heck is going on with David Johnson's wrist. Where is that front office at? We got a lot of questions for him, but until then, it's Cam Newton and panic or whatever we are. We got to figure out where we're at. All right. The C3 Panthers podcast, go ahead and smash the thumbs up button, subscribe, be a part of the show. You can participate in the chat room with one of the livest chat rooms in Panther Nation. And you can be a part of the show by calling into the cat calls. The line is 252-228-5098, and it's locked and loaded tonight. A lot of people are interested in, we're all here. We're all eyes. We're all ears. And Cody, what are we all eyes and ears about, dude? The news today breaks that Cam Newton's at practice, and then it's out of practice, and then in like 4 minutes, it snowballed into Cam Newton's not even going to be playing against the Arizona Cardinals this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, this, a bunch of things happened, and it's such a weird timeline of events. After Thursday night, you let it age and you get away from the football game. And then Sunday happens. And then Drew Brees breaks his finger. And now all of a sudden the NFC South doesn't look as insurmountable as it did before. And then, Tony and I were gonna do the show tonight. And I told Tony and Greg, we should do a reset show. Reset our emotions. Try and look at the positive and be confident about the Panthers going forward. And then, man, here comes this haymaker coming from the right that no one sees coming. And if you follow me on Twitter, at Cody Lack, CODYLAC on Twitter, I already put this out. But honesty is my new policy, man. And, I mean, it's always been my policy, but I'm not letting my bias interfere with my opinions. And I honestly feel that we're watching the final moments of
Hush.
career.
Hush. You can't.
I don't want.
Why do you think it's that bad? Why do you think we're at that point already? Answer me that.
Because no one knows what's wrong. You and I were debating, is this a mental thing? Is this something that is, in Cam Newton's head? Is he healthy? Is it a combination of all of those things? The fact that we don't know and that no one knows and he's not practicing. Do y'all remember when Cam didn't practice for New Orleans at the end of last season? A terrible performance. How are the Panthers going to move forward with Cam Newton in the state that he's in right now? I don't know. It doesn't seem smart. It doesn't seem reasonable. And I don't know. This feels different than every other Cam Newton incident that we've had in the past few years.
So what happens today is that Cam Newton does not come to practice. And let me clarify this. Lynn says this. Is it official he's not playing Sunday against the Cardinals? No, it's not official. As you're correct. He's listed as day-to-day. But if you, and I'm sure Lynn watched the press conference. I mean, she follows it just as close as we do. But if you saw Ron Rivera's press conference today, actually here, he was very cryptic. And what I mean, he didn't have anything to say, first of all. So I don't know if you can be cryptic with nothing. But he acted like this, is that he really didn't understand what was going on. He just said, well, Cam's been getting treatment. Just found out today he wasn't going to be practicing. And we're prepared. He really spoke in a way that implied that Cam would not be playing this weekend. Like he was not expecting. He wasn't saying, look, the foot is bothering him and we're going to see how treatment goes. He said that in the back ends, but he was like, I just don't know what's going on. And it sounds to me that there is something behind the scenes there, maybe between Cam and himself, Cam and the team, Cam and the coaching staff, Cam and I don't know, but something is bizarre, Greg. It smells of something more than just a sore foot. We're talking about the man who played after a car crash with a cracked back. We're talking about a man that we've seen take helmet to the head, helmet to the back, helmet to the grill, everywhere, and get up in pain and will himself through it. What we saw, to be honest, a minor foot injury, if it's not broken, if it's not a Liz Frank, it's still it's a foot sprain. Isn't it surprising, Greg, that Cam Newton wouldn't just power through that? Does that show some fatigue on his end? Or where the heck is where are we at? Are you worried beyond just Sunday?
Well, to touch on what both of y'all are saying here, I am a little worried myself, but not necessarily that Cam is done, but I can understand somebody feeling that way because it's been so long since we've seen him be really good.
Yeah.
I mean, he's lost 8 straight games. He hasn't thrown a touchdown in 4 straight games. And that's a big deal. Now, I can say there are 4 Hall of Fame quarterbacks that have had 8-game losing streaks before. So that doesn't mean that he can't come back to greatness.
Right.
But I think it's kind of a recency bias, huh?
Yeah, I don't think it's I don't think after Sunday or Thursday, I wasn't going, oh, I'm worried that Cam Newton might never come back, period. I never had that thought. I just thought, oh, crap, we're dealing with something. Something ain't right. It's going to take a while. But now, he's not even now I just felt like all of a sudden my optimism, whatever I could conjure up at the moment, I can't conjure any up. And you're right. It's been so long. And I think that might be the problem for Cam. It's been so long since he's had Juju.
It almost looks like he's lost his passion for the game. Like, I hate saying it, but when Cam's happy, he plays really well. I haven't seen him with a smile on his face during a game in a long time.
A long time. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was finished. Good.
Well, and it's hard to not draw the Andrew Luck comparisons when we just saw this happen. So what part of the reason why Andrew Luck retired is he started having a calf injury, and then they thought that it was one thing, and then it was another thing. So now we're questioning even the nature of the foot injury. Was it just a sprain? Is it something more than that? If it needs to go see a specialist, then it seems that it's something even more than what we were fearing that it was. I mean, I can't put enough emphasis on this. It's his right foot. That's your load foot. You put all your weight and pressure on that foot.
Oh, come on. Cam has been throwing off his back foot his whole career.
I think it's
that was a funny joke. That was a funny joke.
But listen, and look, that adds to the point, though. I mean, if Cam Newton is going to be Cam Newton and, make these off-platform throws that he's been able to do for the majority of his career, man, that's an important injury to have happen to you. This on the heels of a shoulder repair, not being able to run and feel like himself. I just, I don't want to be a pessimist. And of course I want Cam Newton to come back and break records and do all the things that we've always felt that he was going to do after that MVP season. But my rational mind doesn't see it that way, or at least wonders how that's going to happen, because it doesn't look good right now.
All right, so go ahead, Greg. Yeah. Go ahead.
Do you think the not running thing is because he's being instructed to, or do you think he still has the option, like the coaches still give him the freedom to make that decision, and he personally isn't doing that?
But there are far less designed runs, and that's obvious. But I do feel that, he's not even scrambling to make a play on his own. And that's been a part of his gameplay for a long time, and he's not doing that. Now, I do feel there's a concerted effort on the part of our coaches to be more of a drop-back passing quarterback, and Cam is 100% on board with that. And I've never doubted his ability to do it, but it feels as though now that they're trying to make that transition, it's these injuries are making that process take even longer than before.
All right, so in the chat room, it was someone who brought it up. They said, "Look, we're 0-1,000 when Cam doesn't run it," and of course he didn't run it because he didn't run it because he was. Of course, he's unhealthy. His foot. Here's my thing. I'm not denying that Cam is dealing with injury. Right? I mean, I think that is clear. Every football player is. I thought the shoulder was doing better than maybe it is. And while this foot may be problematic, the way we're seeing and talking about it and the feel of it sounds like it's a major injury, but we have no reason to believe it's a major injury. Right? And so that's what it is like, how is this so much to where, why is it, if this was just a sore foot, isn't Rod coming out and say, look, we're really hoping that he's going to be back. We're preparing like he could be back, but we're also going to have Kyle Allen ready in case he can't. He's day to day. He's improving. Things are getting worse. Things are getting better. No, it was like, I don't know what the fuck is going on. I don't even know what team I coach. I don't know who my quarterback is. I don't even know the name of the doctor. And it was so bizarre. And so to me, that suggests there is something more than just the injury. So I think this is a combination of foot, shoulder, and soul. And there is, like we've talked about the passion part. We've talked about the mental part. We've looked at, if you look at his video that you put out on a blog, it's freaking bizarre too. Right? I didn't get past minute 5 because you sent it to me right by the show, but you're trying to tell me after the worst effing performance in Cam Newton's whole life that he puts out a video that starts with him like, oh, this was a tough game, blah blah, and then it goes, hey, let's talk about my hats and my fucking clothes and this and that, and then back to you just got to deal with this. It seemed like that mug has been body snatched. Cam Newton has been stolen from us. The Cam Newton that we know, somebody has taken him. They have replaced his soul with an alien. They have replaced his soul with a dang Matt Ryan in cross-dressing clothes. I don't know what it is, but there is something to this that we know. If we know the Cam and the Warrior, right? And we know Cam the Warrior. We've seen it. We lived it. Is that if we know that that's the case, he's trying to fight to get back. It seems like the fight is gone. Now, last question, because we got to drop into the cat calls, because we got Ed Smith, former NFL tight end, host of the Bleav in Cardinals podcast. Ed Smith's going to come on to help us preview the Arizona Cardinals. And if you're interested in that interview, go ahead and smash the thumbs up button and hang around to 8:30. Share the show. We need to grow Panther. This is the time that we're going to embrace each other and grow together. Now, the final, what was I going to say? I had one other thing I was going to say, I thought. Were we going to cat calls? I don't know.
You were going to say that Moneybags lost and says that Sober Tony is too rational.
Sober Tony also loses his thoughts. All right, let's jump into these cat calls.
So what are your thoughts on catcalling?
Yeah, it's pretty. You shouldn't do that to somebody.
And how did that make you feel?
Very uncomfortable.
So how do you think catcalling makes the person feel?
It feels good, like.
It just hit me.
After you took a sip of beer.
Exactly.
Yeah. Good point.
Yeah.
Hi guys, Rich here. So I stayed
What's up, Rich?
8:30 in the morning and that only got me to half time. Oh my god.
This is after Thursday.
Anyway, I was at the point of wondering whether I should sell my ticket for London at like a 400% markup. But I felt much better listening to the podcast and listening to Tony's drunken rants, which were fantastic. Cody, I'm with you as well. I've been talking about this since last year. Ron Rivera's a defensive coordinator. Norv Turner's probably past his sell-by date. That trick play at the end. You want to do a trick play? Run Dontare Poe up the middle. The guy's 300.
There you go.
Put him and Alex Armour behind each other just to push Cam over. I mean, If you want to mess around, running sideways, right? I played high-level rugby. Running sideways, you are such an easy target. You are not balanced. You can't make the contact. Christian McCaffrey bounces people head on. When you get hit from the side, you've got no resistance to it. It was a ridiculous play call. It was like how to be super smart on like great, and it wasn't. I'm totally with. I've just listened to the podcast. I'm totally with your guy in Utah. You're listening to me as well. Hello, mate. Yeah, really anguish going on. Cam's accuracy was horrendous. I mean,
he has not heard about the news yet.
Watched the highlights, and in a tiny package, you seem to hit Greg Olsen a couple of times. But yeah, the dynamism. I mean, you know, in comparison, the long pass to Curtis Samuel. You know, most quarterbacks would have stuck that out there and Curtis would have scored a touchdown. I mean, you know, not just Mahomes, but, you know, Jared Goff, who's kind of okay as long as he's clean and stuff. Like, really, I don't know if the shoulder's gone or what's going on with Cam, but, you know, I know everybody's a massive Cam defender. I know you guys are. But an honest evaluation, if he can't run, because remember when we talk about how great he is, we always add the running stats and the touchdowns.
Yeah, you got to. It's part of his game.
All right, you know, he sees things well. But my God, if he can't run and he's losing confidence as well, like you said it, below the Dalton line, you know, it's a worry. He can bounce back because we know he can bounce back. But, oh my God, anyway, you know, I'm not sure about the pressure coming from the D-line either. Doesn't look like it's massive. I think Irvin coming back will help. Luke was a monster. Like you, worried about Dante Jackson. He got burnt a load. I know Bradbury got done for a long one, but yeah, Dante's getting picked on. I think that's a bit of a worry.
He's too confident at times.
I just hope it improves.
Okay,
you know,
so here.
Catch him live and I get.
So this is the call that comes in before the Cam. I mean, this came in. Rich sent this call maybe on Friday or Saturday, right after our post game. Now, here's the thought that came to me. Oh God, if I lost it again. Holy fuck. Hold on. Let me take a sip of my beer.
Take a slam. Get your head right.
All right, let's go to the next call.
Podcast.
Panther Nation, how y'all doing? This is G Cavassier.
What's up,
Really
G?
quick, man. I'm still pissed off about the Tampa Bay game, man. It's so crazy to me, man, that, you know, the rain caused them camera angles to be at a certain position. Because I don't give a damn what nobody says, man. When Cam reached out for that first down, that was the first down.
That was
I
the
don't
first
give a damn
down.
about the camera angles. I mean, they tell me the refs couldn't see that was the first down because he reached out. That dude was 6'5", and he reached out. That wasn't the first down. To me, that was the first down, and I don't give a damn. They should have called a quarterback sneak instead of doing that damn naked bootleg ghost shit or whatever the hell Ron Rivera said. There is no way in hell if I was the head coach, I would have done that play. I would have told Norv Turner, shut the hell up. I'm the head coach. We're doing a quarterback sneak. You know what I'm saying? Cam Newton is 6'5", 250 something, man. It's a big boy, man. He's like a damn linebacker. You mean to tell me he couldn't go forward? And this is my opinion. To me, that lets me know that he's daggone hurt. I was watching a press conference today with Ron Rivera on Panthers.com, and he was saying, you know, they realized that his foot was hurt after the game. That's bullshit. I'm sorry, man. That's bullshit.
Ooh.
Dude that hasn't taken off running at all.
We have to talk about that.
When he did, he fumbled, whatever, man. A healthy Cam, a 2014-15 Cam, you know damn well he would have went for that quarterback sneak. So they can say what they want to say. I don't believe it, man. I think Cam is hurt. Do I think he can bounce back? Yes, I think he can bounce back. Me personally, I think he can. Because I'm going to let everybody know this, everybody listening, and y'all too listening right now, man. I am a Panthers fan. Not just a Cam Newton fan, I'm a Panthers fan, okay? And it's like this. If he was struggling that daggone bad, looking hideous, why don't you just pull the damn quarterback and put the backup in? Because y'all remember 2003, Ronnie Pete was laying a damn goose egg. He was laying eggs against Jacksonville. And John Fox put Jake De La Home in, and look what the hell happened.
But he didn't want to, though.
Jake De La Home, anything like that. Be a head coach.
I love the way he says that.
Man. You a head coach for a reason.
De La Home.
And the fans, we deserve better than this shit. Me personally, I think we could beat Arizona. I think our defense will win that game for us. In my opinion, if we can't beat a damn rookie coming out of college, then we have a damn problem. So, y'all give me y'all opinions on that. And another thing, we need to get rid of Eric Washington. Keep him as the defensive line head coach. Be defensive coordinator. He is horrible, man. He is horrible. He is horrible, man. So that's the elephant in the room. Do not let Eric Washington call any damn defensive plays. Let Ron do that shit. Keep pounding.
All right. Yeah, thanks, G. Longtime caller, show favorite friend of ours, and always a great caller. He's talking about clearly Cam Newton's injured. It's bullshit to say that Ron Rivera just found out about it after the game. Here's my question, you guys. We did a post-game show, right? I mean, it was late, and I was lit, but I do remember doing the post-game show. Now, I was only lit because I had to go to the bar and watch the game because of some stupid stuff. And I just found out that Amazon Prime does Thursday night games, so now I don't ever have to do that again. But when we watched that game, yes, we said something's clearly wrong with Cam. It could be injury, but none of us said it was distinctly and clearly a hobbled Cam Newton. What we said is Cam Newton was awful. And I understand that injuries can make you awful, but how do they make you that awful? If you're hobbled, look, I've seen a game. I think I might have been at the game where the Byron Leftwich played the ECU Pirates. It was a bowl game I was watching on TV. He broke his ankle, and they had the lineman carrying his ass up, and he played the next play. Did he look like he was when he was healthy? No. But I don't see Cam gingering that foot. I don't see Cam doing anything oh God, my shoulder, the motion. It's something's just not working. His body is not working, but it doesn't look like he's necessary. Does he look like he's limping? So Moneybag says he wants Drunk Tony after every post game. I can't. I'm gonna get fired from my job.
Well, see,
my name is Tony. My name is Ton. I got to come up with a new name where it's I do my name and I switch the letters around or something.
So, pertaining to what my man was talking about, I'm not a believer in either of these head coaches, and I've said it before. I'll say it again. I think Cam Newton re-aggravated the foot injury during the game. There was a specific point in the game that I think it was when he was moving out of bounds and throwing the ball out of bounds.
Yeah, Joe Person tried to identify the play, but you can't even really see anything.
Joe Person said that it was an overthrow, which it wasn't.
My point is this, though. If Cam Newton is not telling about these injuries and not letting people know that
this was J-Dub's point,
then he's putting the team in a worse spot by giving them a flawed version of himself, a not capable Cam Newton. Then it's on him. But like everyone else has said, no one believes that Ron Rivera didn't know the extent of the foot injury.
Right, but do you believe truly that while we understand that Ron would be encouraging, while he would want Cam Newton to play, correct? I mean, he didn't want that Cam Newton to play. I guarantee you that, right? Well, but at the same time, it does not seem like he has enough. Unless he has, like you said, brainwashed Cam, how does he really truly have enough to get Cam? If this isn't super major, I don't know. I don't feel like this is abuse by the coaching staff. We shot him up. It doesn't even look like you shoot Cam up with painkillers and he gets any better.
Right.
Here's the thing: is we're kind of putting it in a very tough position because, in one hand, we're saying, why isn't Ron Rivera playing him? He doesn't look that injured. But in the other hand, we're saying, well, if he's injured, he shouldn't be playing. And if he gets injured while he's playing, and it was because he was injured, Ron Rivera made him play while he was injured, then we're going to get mad they played him. But if they don't play him, I mean, it's really tough, man. We put him in a no-win situation, I wanted to touch on one part of that call that we hadn't talked about. Why is it that the refs don't have the same views that the public does?
I don't know. That's a good question.
See what we see on TV?
I thought that they did, and I thought that whenever the cameras went out in the stadium because of the rain delay or the lightning delay, that they weren't able to see the best angles that showed Cam Newton reaching for the first down. So, something that had nothing, we had nothing to do with a weather delay ended up causing us a first down early on.
All right, we're about ready to move. Yeah, do not ever say that again. All right, you're listening to the C3 Panthers podcast, brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com. We are going to be moving on to the next segment of the show right after this break, but I do want to encourage you guys this. Go ahead and smash the thumbs up button, subscribe to the show, be a part of the show by participating in the chat room, and call into the Cat Calls line. The number's 252-228-5098. We've got like 20 calls after our guest tonight. Hey, and I even had somebody shout out to the fan today that the first so we sell these t-shirts, guys, if you're listening, like casually. We make a t-shirt for our fantasy football league every year, and I always order some extras, and then I end up selling them. I've had these. We made these I Stand With Cam t-shirts. We made these in 2016. Now, this was after the Denver Broncos were targeting his head. The dang refs weren't calling nothing. Every year, the meaning of this t-shirt has changed. Right? It's been, if it's the ref in the head, if it's the shoulder, if it's the fans and the backups or whatever the hell it is. And right now, one person bought this shirt today. It was the first shirt, I Stand With Cam shirt, sold in like a year. That is a true damn fan right there. So shout out. I don't want to give their name out because that's probably not right. It's like whatever. But you can get your I Stand With Cam. There's only like 8 left. Hey, they're a limited edition. So go ahead and be a part of the show. Stand With Cam. Oh, and did you see this other one right here? This is this year's shirt. Keep pounding, right? Because celebrating our trip to London, and it was a lot cooler when Cam was potentially going to be part of our team. All right, let's move on to the show. We've got a guest tonight, guys. Special guest tonight, Ed Smith. You can follow him at Ed Smith Speaks, former tight end for the Falcons. Boo. But awesome. Awesome. Two-sport professional player, several teams, the NFL as well as Major League Baseball. Ed Smith, host of Bleav and Cardinals podcast. Welcome to the C3 Panthers podcast.
Man, it's a pleasure to be here with you fellas.
So, Ed, you tell us a little bit about what you do. I know you have a role in Arizona. How did you get into your media role in following the Arizona Cardinals? What implanted you in Arizona?
Well, I've been out here for about 16 years now. Floated around for a bunch of years before that in terms of where I was located, but finally made home here. I have a radio show on NBC Sports Radio 1060 AM every Saturday from 10 to 12, and this opportunity was presented to myself and my Bleav in the Arizona Cardinals podcast teammate. He's actually my radio co-host as well. Presented to us to cover these Cardinals, and we thought it'd be a lot of fun. Obviously, with everything we got going on out here, it's going to be a roller coaster ride. So, it's been a good start to the season in terms of stuff to talk about. I'm not going to say on the field it's been great so far, but obviously we've had a good time in terms of following what they do with the Cardinals.
So tell us where the Cardinals are at right now. And just actually, before we get into that, let me introduce my co-host tonight. Cody Lashney's on the mic. Say what's up, Cody.
Hey, how you doing, brother?
Good, Cody. Good to meet you, man.
And we got Greg Schlager. We call him the Bat Daddy. What's up, Greg? Anyway, Greg, say hello. I feel like I'm telling my children to say hello. I've got 3 kids.
How you doing, man? Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, too.
All right, so tell us this. We brought you on because we're playing there as the Panthers are going, and sorry if, this crazy news broke today with the Carolina Panthers and Cam Newton. The things have become more than complicated. But we were really, or even when we contacted you and we were preparing for tonight's show a couple of days ago, this was a show where we were going to try to bring the fan base back to optimism. This is a time. Look, the Carolina State bird, North Carolina State bird is the Cardinal. The name of the show tonight was Panthers set to eat Cardinals, right? Or eat state bird. That's what the title of the show was. And we were going to try to rah it. And then this crazy news comes out about Cam. So let's turn our focus to the Arizona Cardinals. Where are you guys at as an organization right now? Started out 0-2 with a new quarterback and a new coach. Just where are the Arizona Cardinals at in this part of the season?
Well, actually, we're 0-1-1. We have to take credit.
Oh, that's right. It was the tie. That's right.
Even though I think that's the worst thing in all of professional sports is a tie in football. So that doesn't even count. Where we are right now, man, we're in that zone where we just don't know what we're going to get from week to week. Obviously they kept a lot under the behind the curtain as far as the preseason. They were talking about this offense was going to revolutionize, the NFL and have everybody on their toes. And, we're going to see things we've never seen before. Thus far, we haven't seen that out here. We're in a state of kind of that holding pattern in terms of the offense, just still trying to figure it out, find out what Kyler Murray is, find out what Cliff Kingsbury is. Thus far, they've been able to move the ball a bunch during, in between the 20s, struggled in terms of scoring touchdowns in the red zone. Running game has kind of been just invisible, if you want to call it that. We've got issues on the defensive side of the ball. So our concerns, I know you guys are going through that immediate trauma of what's going on with Cam, and that in itself can just destroy a week. But right now out here, we're just thinking we're continuing to try to figure out what the next 14 games hold for us, because it could be we could be looking at the same type of season we had last year when we ended up winning that number 1 overall pick. Unfortunately, nobody wants that. But, at the same time, we could win 6, 7, 8 games. It's just so unknown out here just because of what we've seen so far. And, I'm just kind of shaking my head. I have a lot of thoughts on offensively, defensively, even coaching-wise, what's going on. But I'm sure we'll get into that as we continue on with this talk.
Well, as you mentioned that and certainly every team and every fan base has that kind of unknown element to the season. You're trying to gauge that. But when you get a number 1 draft pick and a quarterback like Kyler Murray coming in, there's a lot of excitement. There was a lot of buzz coming into the season, and then I felt like all of a sudden it tailored off with that one false start call with the clapping in the preseason, and then all of a sudden everybody's like, well, you know what, this ain't gonna work. But and then Cliff King, right? So you go from crazy optimism to now everybody's like, hey, the Cardinals suck. My question to you is just this: is there a faith in what you've seen so far? It's a very small sample set, but just that the team's going to get better from week to week, because that's what you want in a team like that, right? Is that like you can't go. We don't expect teams to go from 2 wins to the playoffs. What you really want is a team to go to 6 wins this year, 8 wins the next year, 11 wins the following year.
Well, you hit it right on the head. For me, it's nobody out here has pipe dreams of playoffs or winning a Super Bowl. Those are like fantasy dreams. We know that's not where we are. What I want to see each and every week is competition, and thus far they've given it to us. We've had signs that they're going to stay in some of these games. What happens as we move forward, though, is they're going to have to establish an identity, and then we'll get more comfortable. We're seeing. I don't want to see every other week a different game plan or a different tempo or those type of things. The thing about it is if they'll give us hope. One, by staying in these games. I'm a little alarmed because every game they're falling behind early, and that you can't do that and then expect to stay in the majority of the games. But if they can stay in the games, be competitive, it gives us hope that we're inching in the right direction, especially after last year when it was one of the most abysmal seasons, offensively, defensively, special teams, coaching, you name it. It was just a horrible thing to watch. So as long as we see progress out here, I think we're going to be okay. We'll grade it, I guess, week to week. A lot of times with a team like, some of those upper echelon teams, you have your early season goals, it's playoffs or bust. And you kind of do it on a quarterly basis. We'll after the first 4, we'll mark ourselves here. After the next 4, out here, man, seriously, we're going week to week.
Before we go any further into who the Cardinals are right now, and obviously we have more questions about Kyler and Kingsbury and just your overall thoughts about the team, but we need to talk about Steve Wilks for a minute. Because obviously Steve Wilks had the Carolina connection. He was the defensive coordinator here, and then he was hired to be the head coach of the Cardinals. From our perspective, we kind of viewed it as, man, they're going to fire a guy after one season.
With no talent. There
wasn't a lot of talent on the football team. He didn't really get a fair shake, so to say, but I don't want to project that. What do Cardinals fans, how did they feel about Steve, and what was your assessment on the man as a coach?
As far as the fans out here, they're all results-based. So, they're looking at the product on the field, not a lot of insight into what he was dealing with and what he took over. So for them, it was, he stinks, get him out of here. And on the flip side, for me, I felt the man's pain. What he took over in terms of just the organization in general. And I know people forget, it all starts at the top. Our leadership, meaning the front office, has not made it easy for any head coach. And there's a reason why Bruce Arians decided to get out of here when he had, pretty much established himself. He just couldn't – I don't think he could take it anymore in terms of what we were seeing from the front office. Wilks comes in, and I will preface it with this. He might have been a little over his skis a little bit just because this was probably one of the toughest first-time jobs to take over. We look at some of the other first-time head coaches, and they take over cushy positions with established front office, talent on the field. It's an easier transition, because what happens a lot of time with these coordinators, they come into a position where now they're the CEO, where they're not just looking over the offense or the defense or the special teams. They're now in charge of every aspect of everything that's going on. And what happens is it's a little overwhelming, So the biggest problem for Wilks was he came into almost an unwinnable situation.
Yeah, impossible.
Yeah, and it was almost like a mercy killing. After last season, it was like, man, I'm glad he got out of here, just to save himself. And obviously, he's moved on, and we wish him luck. But the fans, they'll look at it as like he was a total failure. For me, who's somebody who looks at it from the outside, looking what he took over, he really got a raw deal out here in Arizona.
Yeah, so interesting, just follow up on that side note to Arizona Cardinal fans is for a guy that was in over his head who had NFL experience, now you went and got a guy who has no NFL experience. But second is the Cardinals had something like 420 roster moves last year. Like their team just completely fell apart. So they were not only bad to start with. So my follow-up question to you, Ed, about Steve Wilks is after that hire and fire, this kind of, to me, it seemed like maybe it was if you only give a guy that window, you never believed in him in the first place. Yeah. So does the front office get egg on their face for making a poor decision and then giving up or giving up too quick or not giving any support, or were they astute enough to realize that it wasn't going to ever work?
The Arizona Cardinals front office has tripped into every move that they've made, and it's like tripping in the dark. It's not like they didn't even see the object they were falling over. Throwing the factor that not only did we have a first-year head coach last year, we had Josh Rosen, who they moved up to draft in the first round, right?
Yeah.
So
and now he's gone.
The following year, you repeat the process. It's like wash, rinse, repeat, right?
Yeah.
So they go out and they get a brand new head coach, rookie head coach who's never done before, and they draft the number 1 overall pick as far as quarterback. And the dude they just drafted last year, who they have playing behind this horrible offensive line, horrible offensive scheme, they just toss him to the wind, and they take a hit out here. They try to hide behind a lot of the goodwill they always try to do. They have certain players, and we've got our Fitzgeralds and certain players, so they always promote those guys to hide the fact that they've done a horrible job in terms of, even with this past year's draft. And I'll bring this up and set up real quick. Instead of going out and shoring up your offensive line, you go out and you draft the number 1, quarterback with the number 1 pick, but then you don't address the offensive line until the 4th or 5th round or whatever it is. You go get wide receivers and D-backs when somebody's going to have to protect this man. So, for anybody who's watching, it's like, wow, they just continue to do it, man, and it just continues to get piled. They just continue to add on to the futility out here as far as making the proper moves, putting the right people in the right places.
So let me ask you about. Let me just jump in one thing, Greg. So you mentioned the offensive scheme that you're in. How do you feel about Kyle Kingsbury and this brand new offense? Because I do some scouting for DraftTech.com, and I'm a fan of these kinds of offenses and the points that they can produce, even though the season hasn't started the way you wanted it to, and even though the offensive line is porous. Are you at least hopeful that once this offense really starts to fire up, that with this quarterback and this coach, that it has the potential to be a pretty potent, high-powered offense?
Gentlemen, I am so worried about this offense for a couple different reasons. One, through the first two games, I think they've had 102 passing plays, 34 runs. And of those runs, a couple of those were scrambles by Kyler Murray. So they count as runs even though they start out as passing plays. There's no way that you're going to
win in the NFL like that
with no running game. And then, we've got all kind of issues with the running game because your offensive line stinks. I don't like this pistol formation, quarterback never under center. Do we have the right running back for this particular offense? Those are all the questions on top of, hey, wait a minute. Do we realize that although this is a passing league with this up-tempo and stuff like that, we still have to run the ball. And part of their futility, even in the red zone, is the closer they get to the end zone, the harder it is for them to punch it in because everything is in shotgun and pistol. When it comes down to getting those 4th and 1s or those 3rd and goals and 4th and goals, can you line up man-to-man and punch them in? And I haven't seen that. For them to survive throughout this year with that type of tempo, one, it's going to put a lot of stress on their defense because you're going to have a lot of 3-and-outs. You're going to have a lot of fast drives. And, it's going to have your defense scrambling, getting back on the field, and they're going to be gassed in competitions where they're playing these supreme offenses and you're giving the ball back to them. So, the other thing is I'm waiting on this dynamic offense that's supposed to change and revolutionize the game. And you guys have probably been sitting from afar hearing how, this is going to be something that nobody's ever seen. Thus far, all I've seen is a lot of read option, pistol, and a lot of 3 and 4 wide formations, but nothing that has caused me to believe that it's going to give anybody headaches in terms of trying to game plan for it once you see it multiple times throughout the course of the season.
Well, do you think that has something to do with Kingsbury coming from college and just the difference in a college player and a pro player where in college the game's a lot – well, I don't want to say it's faster because that doesn't make sense.
No, it's actually slower.
The pace, I mean, it's a lot more passing, a lot more big plays. That's why you get the games in the 60s and 70s in college. It's also a lot more mismatches as far as defense goes. But the fact that they're younger players and that they can play at a different tempo, the same kind of reason that Chip Kelly came into the pros, wanted to run his 70-play offense and realizing that these guys are older, it's a more precise game and can't do that. Do you think that has to do with maybe where they're failing right now, even though I've seen potential in what's happening? The fact you can be down as much as they were in the first game and come back is very promising. But do you think this Kingsbury fast-paced offense is going to work?
No, I have my skepticism about it, and you bring up great points when you match it up against the college game. For me, there's a couple different things. One, in college, most of your matchups, if you look through the schedule even last week in college, I think they had 0 top 25 matchups. In most instances, there's such a gap in the talent on the field. So your Oklahoma is facing, the school of the, St. Mary's from Catholic school. They overmatch them. Well, first off, with the athletic ability on the field, and that gives you the opportunity to run your fast pace. You have another thing. You have 100+ guys on the field. 80 of them scholarship, the rest of them walk-ons. But you can shift guys in and out. In the NFL, that roster at 47, man, that's all hands on deck. And if you're going to try to run this type of offense, one is going to gas your offensive line and your personnel. can you keep that up for 4 quarters? You brought up a great point. They had those late quarter or late game comebacks. Part of the reason why Detroit gave it up so easily in the fourth quarter, one, nobody's playing any football in the preseason now. Guys are getting 1 quarter of action at most, and then they're coming to a regular season game where they're expected to play 4. Guys are so tired in these first 4 weeks of the season, so they took advantage of the fact that they picked the tempo up against Detroit. Detroit took the foot off the gas a little bit. They were able to make that comeback because of tempo. There is, in my opinion, there's no way you can run this style of offense consistently. One, putting your defense out there with their tail in the wind, having to be on the field for these extended amount of plays. Look back to the run and shoot offenses, June Jones and people like that. This isn't the first. All we're doing is now, instead of running shoots, it's read option with up tempo. That run and shoot is nowhere to be seen all these years later because it just doesn't work. You have to have a running game to support that offense.
Who the hell is?
You have to sustain long drives, et cetera, et cetera.
No idea.
Okay.
Sorry, guys. I feel like I have something playing in the background. My question here, I want to follow up on that, Ed. And look, you've been in the NFL. You've also played baseball, which I think is awesome. I think is going to help us get another layer of assessment with Kyler Murray, right? There's something special there about 2-sport guys. You know, what insight can you bring? But here's my thought, and I wasn't a football player. I'm a football fan, right? But I watch college football and I go, this is that there are 4 or 5 guys on the field that look insanely fast, and everybody else looks kind of okay. And so what I think is that when I see now, I mean, I'm sure if you look at Alabama or you look at Georgia and stuff, I mean, it's different. But guys that look really fast in college, like, oh my God, this dude would annihilate it in the NFL. When you put them in the NFL, they're still fast, but so is everybody else. When I went to graduate school, my mentor said this, he said, look, you've made he said, you have half-assed it through college and you made A's because your professor was happy you're the only person that wrote a halfway decent damn paper. But now you're in a setting where everybody's paper is very good. And so while I think that this is my thesis when it comes to college offenses, I think you can take cues from them, right? I think you can integrate some things, but the theory that these things, like, you can out-scheme the NFL some way, I don't know if it works because your offensive linemen run 4.5s. You know, I mean, your defensive linemen run 4.4s in this world, which is insane. So, and then you made this, and then the other point you made was this puts a lot of stress on your offensive line, but when it doesn't work, when you go 3 and out, your defense is sucking wind. And so how do you balance that? Does a coach learn, and is that really the litmus test for Kingsbury? Is how does he bring the innovation, the speed, and those kind of creativity, but also recognize too that he's at a different party, and that party has some different etiquette, and you know what I'm saying? I mean, does that make sense?
No, it does. You know, for Kingsbury, this is going to be the season of adjustments for him. Finding out what works, what doesn't work. A stubborn coach will try to stick to his guns, and this is the way we do it, and we're going to make this work. A good one, you look at somebody like a Belichick, and, you know, nobody likes to give him a lot of credit up there, but from week to week, he's like a dude that takes whatever you give him and turns it into whatever type of soup he has. You know, whether this week is alphabet soup, he's got some leftover, you know, chicken. He's got some leftover to whatever it is, and he makes a new soup each week. So this is going to be the challenge for Kingsbury. The other thing is you throw in the.
Oh God, lose him. It broke up a little bit. Hey Ed, you're breaking up. Oh, there he is.
I'm sorry. Sorry about that.
You're fine.
A lot of these coaches in the NFL don't like this new dude coming in, you know, with all this bravado, and he's going to do this, do that, and they're going to make it a point every week they play against Kingsbury. They're going to come with their best scheme. They're going to come with their best attack on him, and his job is going to be to figure out how he can adjust and adapt to this new life in the NFL.
Josh Jones in the chat.
Every week,
oh yeah, you're right. Every coach.
Shouldn't they be coming with their best game every week? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me.
Say that again.
I was gonna say, shouldn't they be coming with their best game plan every week to come out
Like
whoever they're playing?
every team,
I get
every
what you're
team.
saying.
They do, but they also like to give a little extra, meaning think about what the Raiders did to them in the preseason. Second preseason game, nobody schemes and nobody sends blitzes. This is probably one of the most vanilla games of the whole entire year, the second preseason game. They came at Kyler Murray and Kingsbury with everything they had just to prove a point, and that's going to be kind of the theme throughout the year. Everybody comes with their best, but I'm saying they're going to give it a little extra. They're going to throw a little something in there to try to
tell you welcome to the league. Welcome to the league, guys. Now, here, a question from Josh Jenkins in the chat room, Ed. We've had Demir. We're giant Demir Bird fans. So Demir Bird is very little, but we're giant Demir Bird fans. He was essentially a walk-on, undrafted free agent for the Carolina Panthers. He produced at every turn for the Carolina Panthers. Had problems with injury. Great punt returner. I've seen him return a kick for a touchdown, a kickoff return, and he had like 3 or 4 touchdowns in one game. He's had 10 receptions so far for about 90 yards with you guys, 95 yards, and he's doing a little kick returns. Have you heard of Demir Bird, which I know you follow the team, but he's one of our guys where he's like our secret favorite. Any thoughts on Demir Bird for our fans?
I haven't, up until just last week, I really didn't follow him too much, but he's opening eyes out here, and it's a great thing, and this is a young, in certain positions, they're very young. We've got a lot of things to prove out here. We've got a lot of guys that might not necessarily be household names, but I'm going to start keeping my eye on him because he's been one of those guys, the little shining light in the some of the darkness out here. So I'm glad he's tied to you guys. I'm glad you guys, continue to follow him and support
He's
him.
been on our podcast twice, right?
Okay.
Is that we got him when he was an undrafted free before, like when he was on, like the first camp, we got him. And my man, by the way, runs like a 4.3. He in 2017. He had 10 receptions for 105 yards. In 2018, let me see. I think that was his year. I mean, he's just dealt with injury over and over because he weighs like 170 pounds, and he is like a Demir Bird chicken wing.
He's got hollow bones like a bird.
Baby bird. All right, Greg, ask what you had a question about their running back. Ask Ed.
I did. Yeah, I wanted to come back to what you were saying earlier about how they had to establish the run game because that will help. Like, there's a reason why, for example, the Cowboys this year are so good. Well, there's a couple reasons. One, they played crap teams so far, but two, they had the fear of Ezekiel Elliott, so that opens up the passing game. That always helps the passing game is when you have a good established run game. And with David Johnson, I wanted to ask. I know he got injured the other day with a wrist, and I know a couple years ago he that was his injury that ended the season. Are those two related at all with the same wrist? Do you see anything in the future that might be bad, or is he good to go as far as we know it?
I think he's good to go. The one thing, and I think I might have mentioned this earlier, I'm really, really concerned about his fit in this offense. I don't like the running style for him, meaning a lot of things out of pistol. He's more of a downhill guy, get him out in space. And, he went for, I think he had 137 all-purpose yards first week of the season against Detroit. And obviously, you throw the injury in here with this last one. He ended up with 14 yards rushing, 1 yard, a 1 yard catch. So that's not going to help your young quarterback. It's not going to help your offense. David Johnson is a guy who should be touching the ball, whether it be through the air or on the ground, minimum of 25 to 30 times combined. And if we're not getting that from him, another thing that I saw during the preseason, and maybe it was because it was preseason, maybe it was because he didn't want to get hurt or he has some leftover from some of these previous injuries. He's been very tentative. He did show me some signs in the first game, running with a little more authority, but I still don't see that David Johnson from 2016, and it's worrying me a little bit.
We only saw him 1 year, too.
Yeah, without him, there is no offense. That's a dude that should be catching, like I said, 10 to 12 balls a game and has his hands on it out of the backfield, 20 to 22 or 3. And really producing. We'll see where that goes, but and then some of it comes back to the offensive line. If they're falling behind early, if they are having no success in the running game and they abandon it, so goes the offense, and that will make for some long days for Kyler Murray scrambling around and running for his life.
What was the worst? What was the worst team you played on, Ed? Okay, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to. So I don't know how much how much you've been looking at the Panthers and our problems and the woes that we've kind of been going through, but you have a home game against Carolina, knowing everything that you now are hearing about Cam Newton. How confident are you in your Cardinals going into this matchup? I mean, how do you think your team matches up with us right now?
Until I see them do something, I'm not confident at all. I know we got an injured Cam Newton.
Yeah.
I still Bleav. Obviously you got McCaffrey, you got the other weapons, Olsen. The other thing is the Cardinals defense. They've been porous. I mean, they've given up multiple yards to whether it be running through the air. Back-to-back weeks, I think they've given up over 100 yards to tight ends. I mean, they've just decided we're going to do however we can do it. We're going to give it away. So with that being said, Carolina could come in here with a ball control type offense and run right through us. You just never know. It's going to, like I said, I as far as confidence wise, until I see it, I can't Bleav it out here.
Right. What was the worst team you ever played on, Ed?
Man, the worst team I ever played on, Bleav it or not, turned out to be one of the best. I was in Atlanta my first year with Atlanta. I was there for 2 years in '97, and we started that season off 1-7. That was Coach Dan Reeves that came in, took over from June Jones and the run and shoot. We had to add tight ends. We had very little running backs, so it was all total rebuild. We started that season 1-7, and we were kind of the laughing stock of the league that year. Finished the season 6-2 though, and almost were the first team ever in history to start off 1-7, finish 7-1. We lost our last game of that year out here in Arizona, of all places, last second field goal. So I call it the worst team I've ever played on because it was, man, you're talking about, I don't know if you guys are car dudes, but you ever get something like it's a total restoration. And this thing, I mean, even the engine is laying on the ground, tires, you're on blocks, the whole thing. So to start that season, we started in the offseason. I signed early in February that year, went through the whole offseason. And to start that season, man, we were just horrible. But we were building something and didn't even realize it because obviously the following year, we finished that season 7-9, finished up, on a high note the next year, man, 14-2, all the way to the Super Bowl. So it can happen.
Have you ever played on a team that was broken, though, internally? And what I mean by that is, so questions have been coming up for the Carolina Panthers. We're searching. It's been a long time since we've been confident. We've had our juju. We've placed it on injuries and all this. And the reason I'm asking this is because I watched one of the greatest Panther players, Steve Smith, play on some putrid-ass teams, right? Mm-hmm. And what came to my mind was David Johnson. It's like, was there ever a player that you played with and you go, man, I wish he played on a different team and got like his, you know what I'm saying? Like he deserves to get his. I feel like David Johnson could be that guy. Is like, can we take a running backs already have a short-lived career? There's no right. Can we just give him to the Patriots or somewhere to what that way? Like, does that make sense?
It makes total sense. I'll be honest with you. I was fortunate where the majority of teams I played was with the Redskins, 2 years with the Falcons, Lions, Eagles. All those teams, we were fairly good, except for I said that one season, 7-9 season in Atlanta. I'll take that and transform what you're saying to a dude out here on the Cardinals, Larry Johnson or Larry Fitzgerald. I feel so bad for him.
Will he ever stop playing football?
It's 46th season, I think, right?
At the level he's playing, though, I mean, and I know this probably won't last forever, yeah. But I feel so bad. If you went through his personal quarterback roster, the number of dudes that have thrown him passes and some of the dudes he's had to deal with, man, it's been really, really bad out here. So, I just hope at some point, and it's probably the end of the road for Larry. He's one of those dudes, I don't see him all of a sudden deciding, well, I'm going to take a one-year deal and go to XYZ. He's been here his whole career. I think when he finally calls it quits, he's going to call it quits as a Cardinal. So I just don't think, they had that 1 year, the 9-7 year, went to the as a wild card, and it turned it into a Super Bowl appearance. I think that's probably going to be his only one, though.
He's only 36, which is, only 36.
Yeah.
He's been playing in the league since 2004. It's insane. Here, let's go. I know that you are a busy man, and we don't want to keep you all night. What do you really want to see? What are you looking for in the game against the Panthers? In just assessing, obviously everybody wants people to win and different things, but you're looking at this from an expert's position. What are you going to be looking at? Are you going to be looking at improvements in offensive line? Is it a temperature from the quarterback, or what is it that you are looking for on Sunday?
Definitely improvement, and not just in the offensive line, but the defensive line as well. We really didn't touch on the defensive side of the ball that much. I want to see them with more gap security. The other thing is that defensive line has to put some pressure on whoever is back there at quarterback for you guys, because we're minus Patrick Peterson for 6 weeks. So we're 2 weeks into that experiment. That young, inexperienced secondary, they need all the help they can from the dudes up front. Chandler Jones, Suggs, they've got to get some pressure on the ball, on the quarterback, stop the run game, keep the pressure off those dudes in the secondary, because they can be picked apart back there, and it's just easy pickings if you ask me. As far as the offensive side of the ball, I want to see that offensive line come out and be nasty, hit somebody, move some people off the ball, get that running game going, and protect Kyler from having to throw the ball 40 and 50 times in a game. This is not sustainable if you ask me, and Kyler's done a really good job. I've been really impressed with the fact that even in that Detroit game, he came out, and a lot of dudes would have went into the tank with that first 3 quarters they had. He kept his even, cool demeanor. He brought the team back little by little, and then they got on that roll. I'm very impressed by that. Like I said, I just hope they can give him more help, and maybe, ironically, maybe get him to use his legs just a little more. He's only run the ball a couple times this year, through a few times. I think 17 yards on 9 carries, whatever it is. But that part of his game still hasn't been shown.
Are they holding it back? You think?
I'm not sure. It's almost, I'm wondering whether he's holding it back or they're holding it back. I'm really not sure. Maybe it's a protection mode. They don't want him out there in the middle of all those trees. But at the same time, there have been some times when he's scrambled, but it's been more horizontal scrambling than vertical scrambling, meaning finding that seam, hitting it, and getting up and getting down. We saw what Lamar Jackson did last week. Ran for 125, I think it was, and protected himself. So I'd like to see more of that from Kyler. And then the other thing is just more ball control and put some points on the board in the red zone.
He also threw the ball from Miami to Baltimore. Good gosh, Lamar Jackson just flicking it around. All right, final question for Ed. Greg, go ahead. Everybody give him one question. I got one more in the hole.
So you say you were on the 98 Falcons team, right?
Yes, sir.
Which means that you were on the NFC Championship run, Super Bowl run, so you played with Jamal Anderson. Now, I know Jamal Anderson was a plus 2,000-yard running back from scrimmage that year. I think he had 1,800 rushing yards, a little more than that maybe. About 16 to 18 touchdowns, I can't remember. Great year. Huh?
Yeah.
What I want to know is, if you remember that, do you see Christian McCaffrey as a player that can do something like that in this league? Because I know I was in maybe 7th or 8th grade then, and I remember watching Jamal Anderson and thinking about how amazing he was. I just looking up his stats. I would love to see Christian McCaffrey do something like that, and I think he's capable of it. From what you've seen of Christian McCaffrey, do you think he's capable of doing that?
I definitely do. I think McCaffrey's even more dynamic than Jamal was.
Okay.
He was, Jamal, great running back, very stocky, very built. He wasn't running away from anybody, though. This dude was, and our offense was predicated on, some of those hard-hitting runs and a lot of play action. We got Jamal out of the backfield every now and then, but he wasn't really what you call a supreme receiver. McCaffrey, he's a whole package. I mean, you can run him up the middle. He'll get outside for it, and in the passing game, he's so dynamic. So I definitely see him putting up those type of numbers and then some. I'm only upset that on 3 of my fantasy football teams, I got him on none of mine. So I'm a little
same way, man.
You didn't have the number 1 pick. That's obviously it. Cody, you got a question for Ed to close it out.
Yeah, so a brief statement is kind of how you feel about your Cardinals is basically how we feel about the Panthers right now. We don't know what to feel going into this game. The Cardinals have a better record than we do. How about that? We don't know. we don't know who our quarterback is going to be. Both of our quarterbacks our backup quarterbacks looked terrible in the preseason. So I'm with you, man. We really don't know what to expect going into this game. My final question for you is, do you feel Chandler Jones will ever get the love that he deserves and is owed to him as one of the best defensive players in the game? I feel his sack numbers and pressures are always up there with the best in the NFL, but he's never talked about in the same way that Aaron Donald and Von Miller and Khalil Mack are. So what's your assessment on Chandler Jones, and do you think he'll ever get the respect that he deserves?
Cody, as long as he's out here on this roster with this defense, with this organization, he's always going to be kind of overshadowed because of the lack of team success.
Right.
You know, the accolades come when you're on a team that's balling out and you're the superstar. Man, when it's this bad, I mean, it's hard to even, you know, you're like Larry Fitzgerald. You look at the number he's put up through all the years, and it's still, he never gets the respect of a Julio Jones, of T.Y. Hilton,
right?
All the premier wide receivers because of what he's dealt with here. So until we either turn around on the scoreboard or he finds another location to collect his paycheck, he's always going to be on that second tier, if you ask me.
My final question has to do with it's similar because you bring it not only experience from the NFL, but obviously you're watching the Cardinals intently, a team that has had a bad offensive line for a long time now, who now has brought in a quarterback who is mobile. But this guy looks like a little everybody makes these great jokes about Kyler Murray on the internet, like the little Giants jokes, all of this. But my question has to do actually with the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers fans have been very upset with the organization for what they believe they have taken advantage of Cam Newton and taken advantage of him in a way that he is a big giant man who can withstand a beating, who is mobile, who has been our super Cam for so long. And right now, I feel like it's like that movie where Superman lost his superpowers. That's where we're at right now with Super Cam. But what are your thoughts on an organization owing a player? Kind of like you drafted what Cody has said over and over, a generational talent with Cam Newton, and owing him enough to give him protection and weapons. Is there any merit to that as a fan base, like where we're kind of upset with our team for not doing what we believe they should have with that opportunity? Or is it something like, hey, the NFL is a tough business and every team is trying to manage their roster, and we worked with, that's the best we could do?
Your fan base is absolutely right. You saw what happened up in Indianapolis with Luck. He took a beating just like Cam has over the course of the first bunch of years of his career. The difference is up in Indy, they finally started to put pieces around him, shoring up the offensive line, getting him running game, getting better on the defensive side of the ball so they could stay in games and him not having to win games 35-36. Unfortunately for him, his body and his mind gave out on him. And he called it quits at his time. I won't call it prematurely. He called it quits when it was time for him to call it quits. For Cam, they pretty much, and it's an evil business, fellas, when whether you're a superstar or just a worker,
a guy making $7,000 a month or whatever.
When they're done with you, they're done with you. And what they'll try to do is try to get as much out of you as quickly as possible, as efficiently as they can, meaning if they don't have to pay you that huge salary, whatever it is, they'll eat you up, chew you up, spit you out, and then they're done. I guess the blueprint for Cam in Carolina would have been what they did for Luck in Indianapolis. It just never materialized. And, I know for sure you guys can attest to the number of offensive coordinators he's had in there, quarterback coaches. I mean, they've tried to put Band-Aids on things rather than close the wound and heal it and go from there. And that's just a sign. Like I said, we'll see how long and how much Cam can take, but he's obviously he's a superior talent. And one last thing. Let's not forget, sometimes athletes, we put this stuff on. We bring some of this on ourselves as well. There's a lot of times when Cam could have been sliding instead of trying to, run linebackers over and stuff like that. So he has to take a little accountability for that. But at the same time, the organization should have been taking care of him all along the way, getting him the pieces he need and putting him in the right position.
His beating has come so much in the pocket, strangely.
Yeah.
But I lied. Do you love football more or less after you played professional football?
Originally, man, I was a baseball dude, and that's why I went and did that for 9 years. And then when I made the transition, last time I played football was in high school. Now, after a year over, it's a summer or spring or over in the World League, I came back next year and I was in the NFL. I didn't realize how much I missed that and loved that game, man. It is something else. Nothing like coming out of a tunnel on a Sunday or whatever day it is. And, I'm paying for it now, surgeries after surgeries. And, I just turned 50 earlier this year. I'm a 50-year-old man and about a 60-year-old body. But if you ask me if I do it all over again, I would daggone sure do it again. I would just make a couple changes along the way. But, yeah, I mean, it's a game that you love. And you have to have a passion for it because, like I said, it does suck the life out of you, but it's well worth it, man.
I heard Roman Harper today on the internet, on the radio, and Roman Harper is, a longtime Pro Bowler, played. He turned gray. He turned gray when he was 28. I'm the same way. I got gray. My first gray hair was in the 8th grade. I feel you, Roman. But Roman said this today on the radio. He said 45% of the people in the NFL don't really like football. The other 60% love the game. Do you disagree with that number?
I would argue with that number a little bit just because you don't do something like that and put yourself through something like that. I know the money's good, but, man, the things that it takes to, one, get on a roster, stay on a roster, the offseason, the sacrifice, you don't do that just because, it's a paycheck. You do that because you love what you're doing. And I think what happens is a lot of times guys finish up their career and you look back on the toll it's taken on you. And toward the end, it does get a little miserable with everything you're dealing with. But, you have to look at the whole package, man. All the things that I've put myself through and played through, bones sticking out here, ligaments gone here. And, man, like I said, I would do it all over again just because of the love of the game, not for the money.
What was your position in baseball?
That's what I was going to ask him next, yep.
I was a third baseman. I was an everyday third baseman. Man. I played a little first, and toward the end of my career, I played a little left and right. One of my Frank Thomas and I, at one point, we were manning the hot corners. I was always at third, and he was at first. So that was a big-ass corner duo. We had the pleasure of working together for some years.
Shaq Thompson is a linebacker for the Carolina Panthers. He was originally drafted, I think, by the Reds before he became a football player. And somebody asked him once. We had a beat writer from Washington, because that's where he played college at, on the show. And he asked Shaq Thompson about the game of baseball and, what the deal was, what the problem was. And he said, look, I just couldn't hit a curveball. He went 1-36. And he said, I couldn't hit the curveball. What was your white whale, Ed?
Early in my career, man, if it wasn't straight and hard, I didn't want no part of it. But what happens after you play the game long enough, you become an actual hitter. Like I said, from my first year to my last year, my 9th year, man, I was a hell of a hitter. I could hit it all. I started using all parts of the field. Or like I said, early in my career, though, man, like I said, if you threw me something with a hook on it or a split or something
God, dang.
I was coming out them shoes, but I wasn't touching nothing,
Frank Thomas with the truth, wasn't he?
Oh, my goodness.
Best batter in my lifetime. Best batter in my lifetime.
And the real cool thing for me is, like I said, I knew Frank. I was drafted in 87. Frank came to the organization in 89. I saw raw Frank, and like I said, we got to play together. To watch him develop and go to that next level was kind of really cool. As part of being an athlete, you get to see some dudes, and we all like to think we're the best at everything we do. Man, for the first time I saw Frank hit, I was like, damn, that dude can rake.
He's the best.
Yeah.
Best hitter I've ever seen, man. My man owned the plate more than anything. All right, Ed Smith, Bleav in Cardinals podcast. Tell them how they can find your radio show, because with the internet, We can listen to everything, brother.
Yeah, no, we're on NBC Sports Radio 1060 AM out here. As far as every Saturday, 10 to 12, you can catch us on the NBC site out here. Also, I'm on at Ed Smith Speaks on Twitter. Glad to be following you guys now, and definitely look forward to, anytime you need me, or, I'd love to have you guys even come on my radio show.
Please.
During the year. And, we do the Facebook thing. It's the Easy Sports Talk Show. So that's on Facebook, on Instagram. That's how we get down, man. And I got to tell you, you guys are great fans, but you do an even better radio or podcast. I was looking forward to being, when you sent me the rundown for the show, I was like, those dudes know what the heck they're doing. So I was looking forward to this. And like I said, anytime you need me, and I look forward to staying in touch, and anything I can do to support you guys, I got you.
Well, you've been so gracious with your time tonight, and I thank you so much. And I know all of our fans are going to go follow you. You've been fantastic. Everybody go check out Ed Smith Speaks. Any last words, guys?
I was just going to say, Ed, the Bat Daddy 52 just followed you on Twitter, man. I'll definitely hit you up sometime to talk about some sports. I'm all around everything, so
appreciate it, man.
Look forward to talking to you.
All right.
Thanks for joining the show, Ed. You were awesome, man.
You got it, man. Appreciate you guys, and look forward to being in touch soon. We'll see how this game shakes out.
All right.
Look at that.